Right now, trillions of dollars in institutional wealth are sitting on top of digital infrastructure that is surprisingly fragile. The industry relies on a patched-together system of static PDF deeds, paper binders, and standard SQL databases to track vast, complex assets. This creates a severe gap between the real-world value of these assets and the reliability of the records securing them. The core vulnerability is mutability. Anyone holding administrative credentials can silently edit, overwrite, or completely delete a record without detection. When a multi-jurisdictional audit or beneficiary dispute inevitably hits 5 or 10 years down the line, proving who owned what and exactly when they owned it turns into an agonizing multi-month forensic nightmare. Relying on data that can be altered exposes fiduciaries and corporate risk officers to their ultimate fear: evidence spoliation and direct personal liability. Public blockchain and Web3 projects attempted to solve this data mutability problem, but they failed to meet basic institutional requirements. These networks rely on highly volatile speculative tokens and public ledgers that expose private corporate data. Worse, they operate completely detached from actual statutory law. Fiduciaries do not buy speculative abstractions. They require deterministic, courtroom-ready certainty that holds up in front of a judge. This is where the Institutional Digital Asset Operating System, or IDAOS, bridges the gap. It translates legacy software records into mathematically perfect legal assets, all without forcing an enterprise to migrate away from the tools they already use. It functions as an integrity wrapper. IDAOS sits passively alongside your existing ERP systems, like SAP or Excel, mathematically locking the outputs those systems generate. The entire engine runs strictly on-premises on your local hardware. Zero exposure to third-party clouds, zero risk of data leaks, and zero speculative gas fees. The system operates strictly by 5 foundational axioms. The most critical is that reality precedes representation. Legal reality and verifiable evidence must exist in the real world before the software allows any digital representation to be created. This architecture shifts institutional trust from a subjective assumption into a mathematically compiled deterministic proof. The system secures these proofs using 2 core engines. The first is the event ledger. Instead of overwriting old data when changes occur, the ledger is strictly append only, logging every single transaction in an unalterable timeline. This enables a feature called Rewind and Verify. Auditors can recalculate the exact historical state of an asset from day one to the exact millisecond in question, proving with absolute certainty that no records were altered, a process that takes under 200 milliseconds. The second engine is the rights graph. It splits traditional flat ownership into a dynamic software asset, disaggregating it into 4 vectors: economic rights for cash flows, control rights for voting, information rights for audits, and temporal rights for vesting. Working in tandem, these 2 engines take vulnerable, static paperwork and compile it into a dynamic, mathematically unquestionable legal asset. We can see the real-world application of this with the Johnson Family Master Dynasty Trust, a large-scale multi-generational entity that used this architecture to achieve complete immunity from trustee surcharge lawsuits. They took their foundational certificate of trust and processed it offline through the local IDAOS engine, extracting an unalterable SHA-256 cryptographic fingerprint of the document. This specific mathematical process connects directly to a major commercial statute, Uniform Commercial Code Article 12, which governs controllable electronic records. By processing the trust through IDAOS, the entity achieved statutory perfection by control. This legal standard guarantees the trust unassailable, take-free priority status over creditors in any courtroom. To prove its legal supremacy, this exact mathematical proof of state was officially filed and sealed into the Public Registry of Marion County, South Carolina. Institutional leaders face a strict binary choice. They can continue carrying the heavy personal liability of subjective, easily altered legacy systems, or they can adopt the absolute certainty of deterministic fiduciary infrastructure.